Housing Committee to order. It's January 24th. We have a start of 7:45. We have one item on our agenda, order number 22-108-723, which is an application for a special permit from Markel Frink and Davino Oliveria on behalf of All for Love to operate a dog grooming business to be located at 75 Lincoln Street. So I believe the applicant is here. If somebody, all of you want to go up into the well, you can either go around or squeeze through here. And please identify yourself again.
Hello, I'm Markel Frink.
Thank you, Markel. So counselors on the committee and others that are here, we did receive a transcript of the public hearing that was held on December 5th. You also have the petitioner's draft decision, you have manager's comments, and you have some information from our clerk on 650 zoning. So I'm going to let you kind of have a few minutes to go over again what it is you want to do, and then I have some comments, and then I'll open it up for comments and questions from the committee.
Sure. So we just want to open a small grooming shop using the 2 top units as rentals, nothing to do with grooming. The grooming would take place downstairs, and I know there was some question on like where the dogs are going to go outside and that kind of thing, but dogs are not, excuse me, staying. They're coming in, getting groomed, and going home, so it's not like they're staying for the day or anything like that.
So no daycare?
No daycare, no.
Okay.
We do have a daycare currently in Medway, but we don't plan to do that in Marlborough.
All right. Is there anything else that you want to, I know you had the public hearing and gave us some information.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through a couple of things. I did get an email today from the solicitor with some suggestions on what we should go through tonight's meeting. I do know that one of the things that you provided was what you called a draft application. And I believe that you had gotten some communication from our assistant on what a draft
Karen, right?
should look like. And I know it's a legal document that has to be written by the applicant, and then we look at it, and then our city solicitor finalizes it to make sure that it's in legal form, and then it has to be sent to the deed office. So what you sent doesn't meet that criteria. So I don't know if you still plan on trying to do a
And
real
I do
draft.
have a copy of it if you want it. I did also email it to Karen today as well.
Okay, so that would be something then, I guess, is that a document you received, Karen?
Yeah, like later this afternoon, so I don't know if you got it already, or I do have a copy of it if you want it now.
Or maybe it will be something, we would have liked to have had it before today.
Yeah,
and
that's why we did the extension.
give opportunity for the department heads to make comments on it also.
I believe that's why we filed the extension because of
Yeah,
that.
I think that was probably a part of it, and just the whole issue of making sure that we don't run out of time. The other thing that he suggested was that the applicant provide how the proposed changes to the property use for pet grooming will affect the neighborhood, and show that the change will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use. And I know the City Council has received multiple communications from the building department, and so at this point, it's unclear whether it is a pre-existing non-conforming or that 2-year window is gone. So I think for the benefit of this body, we're going to assume it is an existing non-conforming property with a business that had very little traffic going in and out of the property versus the potential traffic that will be there because of the new business. But it's your responsibility to tell us why you think it would be noise, traffic, odors, health and safety. And I know we didn't get any response from the Board of Health on if they had issues. and the applicant needs to submit information that supports if there is a current legal pre-existing non-conforming, when did they use it, when did they begin, and I know there were some documents that you did send. So we don't have a legal special permit draft in front of us, but I'm going to open it up to the committee just to kind of get your sense of how you feel about the special permit that would be given based on the 650-12 non-conforming use. And I'll open it up to committee members who would like to respond. Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Assuming that the existing non-conforming use can allow this business to go forward, I don't see any issues with it myself. If the dogs, if the grooming business is about a 2-hour window of drop off and pickup, that's not an excessive amount of traffic. As far as a couple of cars an hour, based upon how many stations are there going to be?
Right now, it'd just be one, and I mean, if it had to stay that way, we could keep it as one groomer. So there'd be one groomer and then somebody in the front.
Okay. So there's not going to be, I know there's some grooming facilities that basically you can bring your own dog and wash them yourself.
Yeah.
For a cheaper rate. Are you looking into doing something? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That was the biggest question that I had.
Yeah.
So again, as far as traffic goes, that section of Lincoln Street is probably one of the heaviest traveled sections of Lincoln Street. So a couple of extra cars an hour is not, or every couple of hours is, I don't see as a big thing. So I don't see any issues with this at all, as long as it can conform to the existing non-conforming use. And it gets us back into, a building that's back on the payrolls and businesses are being done.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilor Wagner, I saw your hand.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess what I'm still struggling with, if the previous business has been out of business since 2019, how I understand how non-conforming, I guess, legacy, how that continuation, I'm having a hard time why, I mean, there's so many other places, there's got to be so many other places in the city, why this place, which is really more residential, and to what you said, Councilor Doucette, I drive this route every day. It can get really busy there. So even though you're not going to have, you can only do so many at a time. So I'm not worried about the traffic load, so to speak. But it's a dangerous. It's hard to pull in and out of this. So having a lot of traffic trying to pull in and out with a very busy roadway is concerning to me. It probably won't be that much noise, but it seems I'm not seeing why this is the only location that this business should exist, so that we have to have a special permit for a non-conforming business. I'm having a hard time understanding why that is, I guess.
Thank you.
So
Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly can sympathize, I think, for your standpoint. I can see how it would be a compelling piece of property to be able to have a couple of rental units upstairs and run a business downstairs. I think, makes a lot of sense for you as the business owner. I echo some of the comments that were made about, whether or not when we find out if this is an existing, pre-existing non-conforming. As the ward councilor for this part of Lincoln Street and the surrounding streets, I will disagree a bit with my friend from Ward 2. I think the neighbors that live along Lincoln Street would tell you that any extra cars in that intersection, especially at certain times of day, is more than the load it can already bear. There's also significant speeding that happens when it is not backed up from the light at Bolton Street to the light at East Main. And, so there would, I think, be some concerns for your patrons there. As you know, this lot backs right up to Chandler Street, which goes from a very busy street to a very residential neighborhood quite quickly. And there is quite an impact that the neighborhood already has. And so, I know we heard some of them at the public hearing, and I would echo some of those concerns, regarding noise, regarding some odors. I appreciate the fact that, you know, you're not going to be running a doggy daycare, and if there were ever a special permit to go forward, I would be advocating that that be included in there to make sure that that doesn't happen. However, you know, if there's an appointment for a dog for 2 hours, I don't know how. I don't want to get too much into it in an open forum. You know, but if I have a meeting that goes over 2 hours long, I perhaps need to have a bio break at some point in between that, and I imagine that some of these dogs would need to go, you know, outside, and so I do, you know, I want to speak up for the residents that live around there, because I think that is a concern of theirs. You know, and this would be quite a bit of a use from a gentleman working on some cars and some old furniture, and not having a lot of in and out, to having people come in and out, which we would want, right? As a business owner, we would hope for you. And for me, that is a concern for having that in this part of the neighborhood. So I think those, that pretty much outlines my concerns, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Landers?
Madam Chair, I've been in there several times over the years. Under the welding shop, I can remember bringing a lot of projects in there. And then more recent years, Mr. Chase, he skinned bones, and I had him do over a couple of old sleighs and stuff like that. You know, it's an interesting place. In both of those, the welding shop, I don't know how, you know, I've been in there maybe 40 or 50 years ago. And then Mr. Chase was in there. A relatively quiet business. No mending, no welding, no shellacking, painting or something like that, you know. I myself, I did grooming back when I was in college for dogs. You know, I love working with dogs, it's very satisfying. I'm not so sure if that's the site I would pick. You know, maybe it gives you the exposure on Lincoln Street, because you will have a sign.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not sure if that's the site I would do. Now, I just heard out of the changing the batteries of my kids, he's there. You're interested in renting those 2 units up above.
Yep.
Is that the driving force on that?
I mean,
That you have a place to do your business, plus you have additional revenue? Not that I'm opposed to that.
yeah, I mean,
but
financially,
Is that the driving force, you think? Is that why you don't go somewhere else in Oakland?
yeah, because there wouldn't be, you know, other income coming in, you know.
What was that?
I said the income coming in is a huge, you know,
Yeah.
draw to that building in particular.
So you're gonna rent that, you're not gonna purchase it?
No, we would purchase the we want to purchase the building.
Or you plan on purchasing?
Yep.
Now, you're the only one that worked there, or you have only one station?
There'd be one groomer, yeah.
One room.
Yep.
And that person will keep busy the whole.
I would say so. We actually have a lot of clientele from Marlborough already. The other owner, Davino, he actually lives in Marlborough, so we do have a lot of clients come down to Medway.
Now, the place on Wilson Street, they do just grooming of dogs, they don't do boarding down there. Are you familiar with them on Wilson Street?
I'm not.
I think it's the first or second house on the right. And then the old McDonald's, when you get donut shop too. I think that's a doggy daycare. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not really familiar with Marlborough that much.
Oh, yeah.
I live like 45 minutes away. Well,
Potentially a lot of business there?
there's what, I think you guys have like 6,000 dogs registered here. It's a lot. Even like in the town we're in, we have a groomer, there's 4 groomers within 2 miles, and we're all booked. So, I definitely think there's the business here. I know you guys talk about the noise. I'm not quite sure like what you expect for the noise. I don't know if you're talking about the traffic or just like noise in general, because we're in a residential area right now. We're operating next to 2 businesses, and that we've never had an issue. Even when we were on, we had apartments above us, and we were like 10 feet from another building, never had any issues. And we had a daycare at that point too.
That's the key, you're next to a couple of businesses. There's no business next to 75 Lincoln Street.
I think think where we have like a really good following now, that we don't need to be in a commercial area. So I'm not really concerned about that, and there's just, like I said, we already have a lot of clients from Marlborough, so.
All right, any other counselors? I didn't mean to cut you off, Counselor Landers, but.
I'm trying to get it through my mind too,
I understand. I think we all are.
because, you know, I remember the public hearing, and most people weren't way off base. You know, there can be dogs barking, certain dogs.
I think in like a daycare situation, yes, but, like when someone new calls and makes an appointment, we make it clear that when we text you, you need to be able to come back and pick up your dog. We don't keep them. A lot of times it's stressful for them, and yeah, it could create barking, but
You don't thought of anything outside runs or anything?
no, definitely not. Especially with having 2 rentals above, I think that would, you know, be too much with having, you know what I mean, having dogs outside or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't realize those rentals were such a big part of your business.
I mean, it's a huge income. It would pay most of the mortgage. You know, working rent-free is excellent.
Anybody else with questions that have not asked them? If not, I'm going to ask people to hold on, and I will. I know I mentioned some at the public hearing, but I'm going to read some of the Zoning Board of Appeals denial decision that they made back in 2020 when there was a proposed roofing company contractor yard at this site. They denied it for failure to comply with Chapter 650, 16B, 650, 17. And it is denied because the roofing contractor yard is not an allowed use in the table of uses, section 650. The proposed change of use is prohibited as it is a new non-conforming use. An upholstery business use to a proposed roofing business use requires compliance with current zoning, and the right to continue a non-conforming use does not allow the owner to change a fundamentally different use. And I will remind everybody again that in our list of zoning, there is no dog grooming listed. I think a concern for me is that prior building commissioners allowed dog grooming under a very vague point in the zoning, but in the RB district that this building is in, mixed use is not allowed, and the other piece that they might go for, let's see, I underlined them all, they're not allowed. So I'm having a hard time doing a pre-existing non-conforming use. No commercial kennels or animal hospitals, no veterinary hospital, no commercial kennels, no retail sales and service, under 75,000 or over 75,000, no consumer service establishments. So how can we grant a pre-existing non-conforming that, at least in my mind, is substantially more detrimental and can't be in here if it wasn't pre-existing non-conforming? So that's where I stand. And I guess I will go back to Councilor Doucette for
Thank you very much, Madam
questions
Chair.
or comments.
And also thank you for that clarification. I mean, my caveat has always been, as long as it be allowed under the existing non-conforming use, I'd be okay with it. What you're arguing is basically it's not allowed under the existing non-conforming use because it's not the same type of business model, and you can't switch business models as a non-conforming use. So if that's how the legalese defines this, there's nothing we can really do about this. But I will say that having had many dogs in my life, and our current dog is the first dog that has to go to a groomer on a regular basis, there is a shortage of groomers in this area. So having another one to come in would not be a bad thing. But if you can find a better place, I'm all for it.
And I would agree there's a shortage of groomers. And as I said, I think your shop would be a wonderful addition to the city, just not there. So maybe you could look for other properties. And I also have the concern, I know plenty of dog owners whose dogs hate to go to the groomers, and they're screaming and crying and barking the whole way from the house to the car, to the car, to the groomers. So noise for the people that live upstairs and for housing surrounding. And I think that was what was tried to be spoken at the public hearing. Any other comments, questions? We do have the decision that we were just given tonight. It's pretty simple. It really does just mention site plan review, which I know the comments that we got from the Conservation Commission were, and the engineer were, that you need to go to site plan to hopefully do some, or would have to go, to have the site plan look at the site and see if they could have you do anything to bring it up to code. I don't know if people want to take time to read this over quickly. You want me to read it into the record? Is there a preference? Do we need another meeting? Do we, Councilor Landers?
I'm not sure what another meeting would do for me. You know, I think if the right business comes along, but I guess it's not the right location. And I feel bad saying that, because I'd love to see young people start a business, be successful, and I know you would be. Yeah, I wish I was a realtor, and I could show you 3 other places that, you know, this might fit right into the zoning, would be correct. But it's, I don't think it's the right place for it. I really don't. For a lot of reasons. I mean, we get into the legal aspects, and I think that's important because, you know, you're gonna be the owner, the rental income upstairs, and, you know, you people, I guess, are gonna employ the person that's gonna run it, but somewhere along the line, you're expanding again, you might get another person that would come in to leave room, and it just, I'm not sure, I just don't feel comfortable, you know, having it at that particular location, and as I say, you know, I don't feel like, well, there are a couple different businesses, you know. I'd like to see, look around, and say, you know, be an asset. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree. I think an additional dog grooming business in Marlborough would be excellent, but for those reasons, I think I know I'm prepared to make a decision tonight, and I really can't vote to support this because of these. It's substantially different from the existing non-conforming exception, which again, arguably has been gone for a number of years. So I feel like that whole exception has gone away. Those exceptions were in place because when zoning changes, it would be unfair to tell a business, oh, you have to shut down and leave now. So sometimes we have to make those exceptions, but this has been non-existent now for a number of years. I mean, I hear you. I think it would help your business a lot to have the rent come in, but we also have to think about the impact, which I believe would be detrimental to the existing neighborhood. And I'm not seeing a compelling reason why this is such a unique situation that it calls for a special permit and an exception for this business. But again, I would love to see you come to Marlborough, and I think it's be a welcome business, but just not in this location. And then for me personally, more meetings isn't really going to change any of those concerns.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Madam Chair.
Councilor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the thing that resonates with me is it's a dog grooming facility in a residential zone district, and the precedence that that's going to set, I'm troubled by, because that's not something we allow. Our zoning doesn't allow it. So to say just because this was a non-conforming skin and bones or furniture upholstery repairer, to then say that we can now put a dog grooming facility in a residential neighborhood, I just think that's a difficult leap, and I think sets a challenging precedence for going forward for other folks that would want to do similar activities in residential zoned. Now, maybe someone wants to change the zoning to allow that in residential neighborhood, But right now, it's not in our zone to allow that to take place.
Thank you, Councilor Austin. Anybody else have comments? Anybody have a motion? Do we want to deal with this? I think it is either we approve the application for the special permit for a non-conforming pre-existing use, not being more substantially detrimental. That's the criteria. So are you saying you approve or you deny? It's got to be one of... I would deny that. Okay. So is that your motion, to deny? Yes. All right. It's been moved and seconded, and I will see if there's further discussion at that point.
Just point of clarification, so the motion is to deny, so if we're voting yes, we're voting to deny the special permit, correct?
Correct. All right. No further discussion. All those in favor of denying? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, it is the committee's decision. This will have to go to the full council. I can report this out. Our next meeting is February 6th. It would then lay on the table until the 20th. Since we do have the extension, I could ask for a suspension if there seemed to be a need to do it. Otherwise, we would just let it go through its normal course and see what happens.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time
Thank you.
and especially for putting together the decision. It's helpful.
All right, thank you.
All right, we have no further business.
Motion to adjourn?
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 3, and it is adjourned.